In 1948, a psychologist put a pigeon in a box and taught it to gamble. No cards, no dice. He just made the food unpredictable. A little sometimes, on no schedule the bird could work out. And the pigeon started hammering that lever like its life depended on it. Faster than a bird that got fed every time. Long after the food stopped coming, he'd found something. A way to take almost any animal, including you, and make a behavior nearly impossible to stop. Not with a big reward, with an unpredictable one. 70 years later, the man who designed the swipe on your dating app sat down for an HBO documentary and admitted, on camera, that this is what he was copying. He said the swipe works like a slot machine on a casino floor, the dating app in your pocket, the game your kid is playing in the other room right now. Three industries that look nothing alike, running the exact same machine inside your head. And once you can see how that machine works, you will not be able to unsee it. Anywhere. Let me show you. Here's the piece almost everyone gets wrong. What these products share isn't they're addictive. Plenty of things are fun. The shared part is one specific piece of engineering, and it has a name, a variable reward. A reward that comes, but you never know when. The man with the pigeons, B.F. Skinner, wrote in 1953 that gambling is the purest version of this trick in the wild. A casino, he said, doesn't need to take your money for nothing. It just hands a little of it back unpredictably, and you keep feeding it. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your brain doesn't light up the most when you win. Scientists recorded the actual chemical, dopamine, firing during gambles. It didn't spike at the reward. It spiked at the uncertainty. And it peaked higher than anywhere else at a 50-50 chance. A coin flip. The maximum maybe. Sit with that. The feeling was never in the win. It's in the not knowing, which means if you want to hook a human being, you don't build a machine that pays out. You build one that keeps them at the coin flip for as long as possible. That's the machine. Everything from here is a costume over it. And the first costume, the original, was engineered to make sure you never see the one number that matters. There's a US patent number 4,448,419, and it exists for a single purpose, to hide the odds. Before it, a slot machine was honest in a stupid way. The reel you saw was the reel that paid. Want worse odds? Add more losing symbols, and players see the wheel getting worse and walk away. In 1982, an engineer fixed that. His patent lets the machine show you a friendly, familiar spinning reel, while the real result is decided by a chip behind it, mapping what you see onto odds you can't. The reel became a mask, and the inventor basically wrote the quiet part down. Make the bad odds visible, he noted, and players reject the machine. So don't. The biggest maker in the industry bought that patent and everyone else had to pay to use it. Now, the near miss. 2 cherries and a third just above the line. Nevada actually wrote a law about this, and it's a strange one. A machine is not allowed to fake a near miss on the pay line, but stacking near misses in the row just above and below the line? Perfectly legal. Why fight so hard over one row? Because scientists put people in brain scanners and watched. A near miss, a loss, paying nothing, lit up the same circuitry as a real win. It didn't feel good. People rated it worse than an ordinary loss, and it made them want to keep going anyway. With one catch, the effect only showed up when the player felt they'd chosen the spin themselves. Remember that catch. It comes back in about 90 seconds. Then there's the master stroke. You put in 45 cents across 20 lines, you win 9 cents back. You just lost 36 cents, and the machine throws a party. Lights, music, the win jingle. The industry calls these losses disguised as wins, and your body falls for it. People's stress responses react to that 9-cent loss like a jackpot. When researchers swapped the happy sound for a sad one, the spell broke. It was never about the money, it was about the sound. So who is all this for? Not, it turns out, the winner. The industry's real name for its best customer is time on device. One woman, studied for years by an MIT researcher, described getting annoyed when she hit a jackpot because the payout interrupted the thing she actually came for. The trance, that's the template. Perfected over a century, behind glass, in a building you have to drive to. Now, what happens when the same machine can live in your pocket, and you carry it in willingly? Look at the swipe and you're looking at a lover. The match is the jackpot. A like you never get is the near miss. And that catch from the casino, the near miss bites hardest when you feel you chose it. You did. You pulled it. With your thumb. 10, 20, 200 times. Even the loop is the same length. A modern slot runs about one spin every 6 seconds. The average Tinder user, back when someone actually measured it, opened the app 11 times a day and spent around 90 minutes swiping. Same machine, different costume, but here's where the pocket version does something the casino never could. A casino is regulated, its payout is audited. A dating app's math is a secret, and at least one of them ran an experiment no gambling regulator on earth would sign off on. OkCupid admitted in a blog post they literally titled "We Experiment on Human Beings" that they took pairs their own system rated a 30% match and told them they were a 90% match, and the people messaged more, liked each other more, behaved as if a number the company invented was real, because to them, it was. Meanwhile, Tinder was quietly assigning every user a secret internal desirability score, a real rating borrowed from competitive chess of how wanted you are. And the business underneath runs on a quiet contradiction. The app makes money when you don't succeed. A 2024 lawsuit against the company behind Tinder and Hinge lays it out. That the apps ration your free likes so you'll buy more, gamify the whole experience, and the complaint alleges hide your profile from other people if you don't open the app for 24 hours. 24 hours. It's the croupier calling last bets. A deadline you can't verify, built so you'll obey it. There's a third version of this machine, and it's the only one governments are now, legally, trying to keep away from children. Why? Hold that thought. Watch a loot box open and you're watching a slot machine that learned from cartoons. The box shakes, the music climbs, the light gets brighter, and for 3 full seconds, a child is in a trance waiting to see what they got. That isn't decoration, that's the build-up on a slot reel, rebuilt for someone with a bedtime. And the money works exactly like the casino floor, one figure the industry would rather you didn't dwell on. About 0.1% of mobile gamers generate half of all in-game spending. The casinos have a word for those people. So do the studios, whales, and it's darker than it sounds. Among people who buy loot boxes, a tiny sliver produces most of the money, and close to a third of that sliver score as problem gamblers on a clinical test. Now, the number that should stop you cold. Around 59% of the top grossing iPhone games contain loot boxes. And roughly 95% of those games are rated as perfectly fine for ages 12 and up. Some games even hand you what looks like mercy, a pity timer that guarantees a prize after enough tries. Sounds generous. It's a price tag. It tells the biggest spenders exactly what the ceiling costs, so paying all the way to it feels rational. And when the odds are hidden, they can simply be worse than advertised. In January 2025, US regulators fined the maker of one of the biggest mobile games in the world $20 million and banned it from selling loot boxes to kids under 16 without a parent in any, after finding the true odds of winning the rare prizes were, in many cases, meaningfully lower than what players were told. 3 costumes, 1 machine. But here's the part that turns a coincidence into something worse. Line them up and it's the same 4 steps every time. A trigger. An unpredictable reward. Something you put in, a coin, a swipe, a payment, and a reason to go again. Casino, love, childhood, 1 loop, wearing 3 faces. And this isn't me drawing a clever metaphor, it's a balance sheet. One of the largest slot machine manufacturers on earth spent years owning the studio behind Raid, Shadow Legends, and another huge mobile game company on top of it. The people who build the machine in your casino literally bought the machine on your phone because to them, it was always the same product. But if you keep one thing from this video, keep this, because it's the opposite of what you would expect. Of these 3, the slot machine is the most honest. By law, its payout percentage is tested and audited. You can look it up. The dating app's ranking of you and the mobile game's real odds. Mostly, nobody audits those at all. The most dangerous version of this machine was never the one in the casino, behind glass covered in warnings. It's the 2 that got to skip the rules and sit in your pocket and your child's. Now, let me pump the brakes, because the cheap version of this video would tell you your phone is mind control, and that isn't true. Skinner oversold his own trick. Later scientists found that unpredictable rewards alone don't turn an animal into a pathological gambler. Something has to push it over the edge, and it turns out to be the sensory cues. Researchers gave rats a gambling choice, and normally the rats played it safe. Then they added flashing lights and sound to the risky option, and the rats started gambling like addicts. A drug that blocks the dopamine signal fixed it, but only in the flashy version. The lights and noise weren't decoration, they were the weapon, and whether any of this counts as true addiction is genuinely debated. Plenty of researchers push back. You're not a helpless pigeon. You have judgment and you can walk away. That's real and it matters. While we're being honest, no, casinos don't pump extra oxygen onto the floor to keep you awake. That one's a myth straight out of a novel. The real manipulation is just math and design, which is the more disturbing answer if you think about it. So what do you do with all this? You learn to feel the machine running. It leaves fingerprints and they're always the same three. A little jolt of anticipation the instant you open it. A strange difficulty putting it down. And a flatness afterward. You feel slightly worse, slightly emptier than before you started. Anticipation. Can't stop. Worse after. When you catch that pattern, in an app, in a game, at a table, you found the lever. And there's one question that cuts through all three at once. Stop asking, am I having fun? And start asking, what is the math doing that I'm not allowed to see? The casino has to answer. The other two are betting their entire business on you never asking. Here's why this is landing now, and not 10 years ago. Regulators have finally stopped arguing about whether these things are technically gambling and started regulating the machine directly. Australia now puts mandatory age ratings on games with these mechanics. US regulators are forcing some of them to print the real odds and the true dollar cost right next to the prize. And the dating half of the story is quietly deflating. Most young people now report burning out on the apps entirely, and the biggest one is losing paying users. Because the machine only works while it's invisible, which brings us back to that pigeon in 1948, hammering a lever for a reward it couldn't predict. For 70 years, the smartest, best-funded companies in the world have been building a better box and quietly betting that you'd never realize you were the one inside it. You were never weak. You were up against a machine designed to stay invisible. It isn't invisible anymore. If this changed how you look at the thing in your hand right now, the next one will change how you look at something you'd never suspect. Subscribe, and let's take that one apart too.